Imagine waiting for an early morning flight in Dubai, expecting a quiet takeoff, only to see dark smoke engulfing the international airport. Commercial flights are abruptly grounded as missile debris begins raining down near five-star hotels just across the street. The United States and Israel had just launched Operation Epic Fury, a massive, multi-day military offensive spanning cities from Tehran to Isfahan. The explicit goal is to bomb the Iranian missile industry into the ground. The bombardment struck directly at the core of the Iranian state. A strike on a highly secure compound killed Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, alongside his family members and the top commanders of the nation's defense council. Removing a head of state and the military high command in a single morning does not pause a conflict. It immediately triggers an unpredictable, high-stakes military exchange across the entire region. Within hours, the Iranian armed forces launched Operation True Promise 4. Over 1,100 missiles and hundreds of combat drones were fired outward in a massive wave of immediate retaliation. These weapons were not aimed solely at Israel. The strikes targeted 27 different United States military installations scattered across neighboring countries, hitting direct targets in Qatar, Kuwait, the UAE, and the 5th Fleet Base in Bahrain. The crossfire spilled rapidly into civilian zones. Debris from intercepted drones crashed into luxury hotels and commercial districts, triggering mass evacuations at major transit hubs throughout the Gulf. By striking deep into neighboring airspace, the retaliation dissolved any remaining borders to the conflict. Countries that historically acted as neutral ground or protected financial hubs are now caught within an active blast radius. The human cost of the initial offensive was severe and immediate. During the daylight strikes across Iran, a bomb hit a girls' primary school in the city of Minab while classes were in session, killing at least 100 young children. In the direct aftermath of this bombing, the official Israeli government account released a public statement doubling down on the offensive, claiming the absolute right to defend itself. This rapid escalation traps millions of foreign nationals. There are over 10 million Indian citizens currently working across the Gulf countries, and another 18,000 students studying inside Israel, all suddenly living under closed airspace and falling missiles. Geopolitically, the timing places India in a difficult position. Prime Minister Modi was in Israel dining with Benjamin Netanyahu just 2 days before this massive pre-planned assault was launched against Iran. Between the massive diaspora trapped in the crossfire and the highly visible diplomatic visits immediately preceding the violence, India is mechanically tethered to the outcome of this war. It cannot observe this safely from a distance. To understand exactly how a regional war threatens the global economy, look at this map. This narrow waterway is the Strait of Hormuz, the single most important geographic bottleneck for the world's oil supply. India relies heavily on this exact route. More than 50% of its entire crude oil supply travels through this specific channel, translating to about 2.6 million barrels imported every single day. In response to the bombardment, Iranian forces announced they are closing the strait, cutting off transit for these highly vulnerable, massive cargo ships. When a military blockade halts the global oil supply, the economic reaction is immediate. Shipping costs multiply, causing the price of petrol and diesel to surge. That drives severe inflation across everyday goods, which directly devalues the rupee. A disrupted trade route thousands of miles away guarantees that the financial burden of this conflict will be paid directly by the average consumer. The groundwork for this invasion began months earlier, during a severe domestic crisis in Iran. By late 2025, the Iranian economy had collapsed. The currency plunged 40%, and the government responded to massive domestic protests with a brutal crackdown that killed an estimated 30,000 citizens. American political leaders quickly seized on this internal chaos. The administration framed the military assault as a necessary intervention to remove a wicked, radical dictatorship and hand the government back to the Iranian people. A violent domestic collapse gives foreign military forces the perfect moral justification to launch a full-scale invasion under the banner of peace and democracy. We have heard this exact rhetoric before. In 2003, the United States invaded Iraq using the precise justification of toppling a cruel dictator to liberate the local population. The same logic was applied in 2011 to Muammar Gaddafi in Libya. Both men were undeniably brutal leaders who ruled their nations with iron fists. Yet, the historical record is clear. Bombing a government out of existence did not produce stable, functioning democracies in Iraq or Libya. It birthed decades of violent insurgencies, endless civil war, and breeding grounds for new terrorist organizations. Iran is twice the size of Iraq. Decapitating its leadership and dismantling its military infrastructure risks turning a massive, strategically vital nation into a volatile vacuum, guaranteeing regional instability for generations.